Good morning, Modern Witches. Welcome back to the Witch of Lupin Hollow YouTube channel. Today we are talking about how to use divination to discover your inner witch. So divination is probably one of the more magical things that most of us witches do on a regular basis. Divination is sort of misunderstood as the practice of fortune telling, which certainly many people use predictive divination to try to understand what is going to happen in their lives or in the world, in a certain amount of time in the future. But I think that most of us use divination as a way to tap into our own intuition. Divination is sort of a tool that helps guide us to the things that we probably already know. Divination is something that we do not just to sort of get a one and done answer, but divination is rather something that we practice in order to help ourselves understand a situation better, to bring things to light that either we already knew or maybe we knew but we didn't really understand, and to really help us tap in to sort of the collective universal knowledge that the cards or the runes or the pendulum represents. First, I just want to go over a couple of different forms of divination. If you are just setting out on your spiritual path, you're trying to connect with your inner witch for the first time, then maybe you haven't heard of these different tools. So I just want to give a brief little overview here. So the couple different, I'd say, most common kinds of divination. Number one is tarot and oracle cards. So this is my personal preferred method of divination. You have a deck of cards, either tarot cards, which have specific symbols, specific numbers of cards, specific elements included in them, or oracle cards, which can have any number of cards in the deck. They can have any kind of theme that the artist was inspired to create. So oracle cards kind of give you a message that usually is written on the card, and tarot cards are a little bit more symbolic, and you kind of need to dive a little bit deeper maybe to understand the message of a tarot card. So basically you shuffle the cards, you choose a card at random that your intuition draws you to, and from there you try to discern the message that the card has for you. Runes are another kind of divination. These are little stones or pieces of wood that are carved with particular runic symbols. Each of the symbols means something different, and you sort of toss or cast the runes and the way that they fall, their relationships to each other, which ones are facing up or facing down. All of these different elements, have meanings that you can interpret in relation to your question. Another common form of divination is using a pendulum. Using a pendulum is basically using any kind of, sort of solid object, often a crystal, attached to a long chain or string that you sort of spin around. The way that it spins tells you, messages. So the direction that it spins, how fast or slow it moves, you sort of program your pendulum with what the different options mean, and then from there you can get kind of quick and easy answers to your questions. Finally, another kind of divination is scrying. So scrying is basically the practice of kind of gazing into a crystal ball. Using a crystal ball is scrying. I don't find that very many modern witches practice this, but it can be really powerful. So you can scry with a crystal ball, but you can also scry with a mirror that's painted black, so you still get a reflection, but it's sort of a darker, hazier reflection. You can scry with just a bowl of water. Anything that has sort of a reflective surface, but that allows you to kind of tune out. You're not just looking in the mirror and staring at yourself. You're sort of seeing the general reflection of your actual reality. You're using that as a method to sort of tune out, glaze over, and allow your intuition and subconscious to take over and guide you to the messages that you need to see or hear. So all of these different forms of divination basically are designed to give you an answer to a question, and all of them are very much open to interpretation. Divination is not something that's going to give you a, yes, this is what you should or should not do. Divination is much more about figuring out what the right path is for you, what the different options are, what the various outcomes could be. So divination is really a very self-guided tool to help you understand the world and help you understand yourself, most importantly. So how do these different tools help you to discover your inner witch and help you get in touch with your spiritual identity? Well, I have two different ideas for you today. So the first is basically if you are just setting out on your spiritual path, you don't know what your path is, you just know that you're drawn to these sort of esoteric concepts, then I would say just ask what your path is. So choose whatever form of divination works for you. If you are wanting something that doesn't really require tools, then you might do scrying. You might just use a bowl of water, preferably in like a dark colored bowl. Or you might use a pendulum. You don't necessarily need any specific tool to act as a pendulum. Just a necklace with a heavy pendant on it will work just fine. Or if you're feeling really called to use runes or cards or a particular crystal pendulum, you could do that as well. So choose your divination tool and then just ask, just give yourself the time and the space to, kind of be undisturbed, be undistracted. Really take the time to ground and center yourself, find a moment of calm and peace, and then ask the tools to guide you on the next step of your spiritual journey. Ask the cards somewhat vague questions, things that aren't going to lead you to the specific answer that you've asked for. If you're asking, am I a witch? You might get some interesting insights, but yes or no questions aren't necessarily those that are going to guide you in the most powerful ways. So you want to ask a more vague question, like, what is my spiritual path? Or, as I explore my path as a witch, what do I need to know? Those kinds of questions are going to help you really open up your mind and open up the potential answers that you can receive. The other idea that I have for you today, to use divination to discover your inner witch, is to use divination on a little bit smaller scale. So you don't just have to use divination for the big questions in life. You can ask any question of your divinatory tools. So like I said, yes or no questions aren't necessarily the best options, although yes or no questions can be very powerful when using a pendulum. But in general, you want to ask bigger questions. Am I on the right track? Is this tool the right option for me? And so you can ask those questions even about the little daily things. So as you're going about developing your spiritual path and developing a daily spiritual practice, you can use your divination tools to ask things like, maybe you are interested in a new tool, right? Maybe you're interested in working with a traditional Wiccan tool like an athame, or maybe you are wanting to, explore a particular kind of meditation, right? Maybe you're interested in this new tool or practice, but you're not sure if it's right for you or not. So you could ask your divination tools something like, will this guide me towards the next step in my spiritual journey? Or how will this tool or practice help me to understand myself better? Ask the kinds of questions that guide you to bigger answers, even about the little things. So by using your divination to really tap into your intuition, to really figure out sort of what your subconscious or higher self has to say about each little step and experiment that you engage in on your spiritual path, by using your intuition in that way, you are going to create a spiritual path and practice that is so powerfully and uniquely you that you are going to be on your own path entirely. You're going to be creating a spiritual practice that is truly unique to your own lifestyle, to your own needs and beliefs, because it's fulfilling exactly what your intuition is telling you that you need. Those are just a couple of different ways that you can use divination to discover your inner witch. In my program, Discover Your Inner Witch, we talk about all this sort of thing. We talk about how to use astrology to discover your inner witch, how to look at things from a really deep, insightful perspective, whether that's, what tool to use next, or how your ancestral cultures influence your spiritual path. We look at all these different kinds of things, and you come away from the program with all sorts of tools and techniques to really help you develop a spiritual path and practice that is truly unique to you. All of the different elements that make up your spiritual path, each individual one of them should resonate with you on a soul level. And that's what this program is all about. It's all about creating the path that is uniquely you. So whether that's through divination, astrology, heritage, just sort of your spiritual interests and the things that your intuition calls you to explore, all of them make up sort of the core of your inner witch, who you get to meet in the program. So drop me a comment below and tell me what you think about the different divination tools and how they're helping you to, get in touch with your inner witch. Feel free to also drop comments about the program. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about it. Make sure that you like this video and subscribe to the channel so that you can be notified of any new videos I put out. All right, I will see you guys next week.